Stocks recover after a lower start to trade, and they are now in the green despite the Trump tariff concerns. FMCG, private banks and media lead the sectoral gains, while pharma and realty continue to drag.
Jio Financial Services will make a preferential issue to promoters of over 15,800 crore rupees that will see them up their stake to 51% of the post-issue equity capital. The stock perks up on the news.
Tata Motors is set to buy Italian CV maker Iveco for almost 3.8 billion euros to gain access to key technologies and build presence in the Europe and South American markets. The move precedes the demerger of Tata Motors' commercial vehicles business.
Infosys CEO Salil Parekh tells CNBC-TV18 there will be no layoffs and the company is on track to hire 20,000 graduates in FY26. He also sees AI expanding the market for IT services and expects large deals soon.
US President Donald Trump says that the US will levy a 25% tariff on India along with a penalty for using Russian crude, even as he calls India a friend and holds out the possibility of a deal soon. Experts believe that the trade pact is still in play. It is a remarkable recovery that the bulls have staged from the lows of the day. We'll talk about all of that right here on Business Lunch. We are coming to you live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I am Hormuz Fatakia. With me, as always, is Vamakshi Dhoria. This comes straight out of a Please Believe It or Not series, if you can call it that, because from the lows of the day, we are up, more than 250, 260 points now. We're reaching that same resistance zone of 24,900. But there's no reason to complain because it's a fabulous, fabulous recovery.
Absolutely, Hormaz. There's absolutely no reason to complain. It's been a very good recovery, and the recovery is being led by the Nifty Bank as well, right? If I look at the Nifty Bank, it has managed to recover by almost over a percentage, from the day's lowest point. What's also done quite well is the FMCG index. Of course, we did see numbers come out from HUL and, largely inline set of numbers. Nothing bad this time around, and resultantly, the stock is surging higher. For now, HUL is close to the day's highest point, up almost 3.5%. Nifty Media as well is another index that is in the green, and what's driving it higher is Zee Entertainment as well as Saregama. Saregama, I believe, reported its numbers just a short while ago. That stock is surging higher today. Apart from that, what's not doing too well is the pharma index. All of these pharma counters, given the kind of developments that have taken place overnight, all of these pharma counters are down and out in trade, Hormaz.
Indeed. And of course, there are a lot of other result reactions. We are counting down to 5 other Nifty companies reporting results later in the day. We're counting down results from Maruti. We're counting down results from Coal India. We are also counting down results from Sun Pharma. And there are lots of other results from the broader markets as well that we need to keep an eye out for. Now, on to the big story of the evening yesterday and for the better part of this day as well. US President Donald Trump has said that imports from India will now face a 25% tariff and also announced an unspecified penalty over India's purchases of Russian weapons and energy that could be imposed on the 1st of August. However, at a press conference later, he said that US was negotiating with India, quote unquote, right now. Listen in.
Well, we're negotiating right now, and it's also BRICS. They have BRICS, which is basically a group of countries that are anti the United States, and India is a member of that, if you can believe it. It's an attack on the dollar, and we're not going to let anybody attack the dollar. So it's partially BRICS, and it's partially the trade situation. It's the deficit. We had a tremendous deficit. So, as you know, Prime Minister Modi is a friend of mine, but they don't do very much business in terms of business with us. They sell a lot to us, but we don't buy from them. You know why? Because the tariff is so high. They have one of the highest tariffs in the world. Now they're willing to cut it very substantially, but we'll see what happens. We're talking to India now. We'll see what happens. It doesn't matter too much whether we have a deal or whether we charge them a certain tariff. But you'll know at the end of this week. August 1st is a very big day for this country because money is going to pour into the United States like we've never seen before.
Well, and amid the tariffs that are imposed on India, there are specific goods which are exempt from the proposed list. My colleague Parikshit is joining us with all of those details. Parikshit?
Well, yes, important details coming from the White House. We reached out with them to them with a query as to how the tariffs will come into effect from the 1st of August. We were told that yes, the tariffs will come into effect from the 1st of August. There are items like semiconductors, minerals, you've got pharmaceuticals which are already exempted. So those exemptions will continue. Also, steel and aluminum were being tariffed at 50%. You had 25% tariff on the auto sector. All of that will continue as it is. No additional tariffs on these sectors. What about the additional penalty? We're told from White House officials that the additional penalty has not been decided, and the tariff schedule starting from the 1st of April is not out. We only know a broad top line 25% tariff. Also, what we will have to now keep in mind is that the exporters will have to brace for more uncertainty. There could be more action from Donald Trump in the next few days, including secondary tariffs. He has set a 10-day deadline for Russia to have some sort of deal with Ukraine to end the war. If that were not to happen, there could be secondary tariffs on countries like India and China because we purchase energy from Russia. So that could be a further blow. So we're looking at the next few weeks of uncertainty. Two major items are going to be under scrutiny right now. One, India's purchases of Russian oil. In the month of July itself, 35% of our oil, crude oil imports came from Russia. Our defense ties with Russia. We use the S-400 in the conflict with Pakistan. We have more deliveries of the S-400 coming till 2026. All of this will be under scrutiny by the United States.
Indeed. Parikshit, thank you for all of those developments. We've been tracking them very closely since for the last many months, ever since the negotiations have been ongoing. Now, sources have told CNBC-TV18 that there will be no immediate impact on smartphones and laptop exports from India to the US. And Ashmit is now here to bring us all of those details. Ashmit, what are you picking up on this front? Because it is definitely an important development here.
Well, by all respects, as far as the smartphone export story is concerned, that's been the poster boy of Indian manufacturing story, and that is something that was also inspiring some concern on account of statements that came out of Donald Trump, that came out of the United States. Now, what sources are telling us is that there will be no immediate impact as far as smartphone, laptop, telecom servers are concerned. The reason being is that at the time of imposition of these duties, initially in the months of April and May, there was subsequently another order that had been passed, a presidential memorandum, which had provided for exemptions for particularly exports such as smartphones. Now, recently, the smartphone shipments that have been going from India to the United States, they have been availing of those exemptions. They have been availing of those benefits for a zero duty applicable as far as smartphone exports is concerned. That is essentially something that was contemplated in the month of May. There was a 90-day period for which this exemption had been granted. That 90-day period ends on August 14th. So what sources are telling us is that these exemptions, at least for now, will continue. There will be no immediate impact on exports that are going out, especially with respect to smartphone, laptop, servers. There will be no impact in terms of a duty hike. The 25% duty hike will not levy immediately as far as these exports are concerned. One aspect, however, to bear in mind is that there will be a review meeting in the United States. This will be on or before the 14th of August. And that meeting will then decide on the continuity of these exemptions, whether the zero tariff, whether the exemptions should continue, or whether there should be imposition of the fresh numbers posted by Donald Trump. So that August 14th meeting will be critical. But for now, no immediate impact, no levy of 25% tariff. Back to you.
Well, thanks so much for that, Ashmit. Important development out there, and resultantly, we did see some recovery in some of these EMS counters like Dixon. Dixon has moved into the positive territory. Kaynes too reported a good set of numbers. The commentary again coming in, of sources suggesting that this could be not impacting the EMS players. The stock is flying high in trade today. But earlier, we spoke to economist Neelkant Mishra to get a perspective on the likely impact of the tariffs on the Indian economy as well as its impact on India-US relations. Let's listen into that conversation.
We're talking about an increase of about $6 billion a year on last year's export numbers. And clearly now, I think, as you said, the second order impact on what happens to electronics exports, what happens to Apple exports, there was a lot of expectation that we may have an advantage. At these prices or these rates, we may have a 5% disadvantage. Some of this, if these indeed stick, see, I think the The message here is that even South Korea was threatened at 25%, but they ended up at 15%. So maybe this is the preliminary, the pre-final step to the final tariff.
And we also spoke to Nilesh Shah, the managing director at Kotak Mahindra AMC, on the impact of the US tariffs on the Indian markets. Here's what he had to say.
We are in a perfect storm right now. Valuations are on the higher side. Earnings growth is in mid-single digit to high single digit this quarter. And on top of it, from being somewhere favorably placed on tariff, we are now probably placed on the slightly unfavorable side. Domestic investors will have to be long-term investors, and they'll have to moderate return expectation. There will be always U-turn in US policy making as longer-term strategic interests of India and US are aligned.
And now the US president has also confirmed a 15% tariff on imports from South Korea, although he described that as part of a quote-unquote full and complete trade deal between both the countries. The South Korean president is expected to visit the White House for bilateral talks within the next 2 weeks, with tariffs likely topping the agenda. The US has also concluded a deal with Pakistan, whereby Pakistan and the US will work together on developing the country's massive oil reserves. Let us now cut across to the other big story of last evening, which was Tata Motors' mega acquisition. The management is speaking about this.
Kind of a rosy business. And together we believe we can actually generate substantial value. We can triple our revenue and quadruple almost some of our profitability numbers amongst the two of us to ensure that it still generate a 20% kind of a ROCE, which is, and this has happened at a very limited risk because these are well-established businesses that are already there, number one. Therefore, this acquisition is a very strategic and meaningful acquisition in terms of why we are doing what we are doing. At the same time, there's also complementarity of capabilities that Girish just talked about. And we also believe for the Indian business, it's going to get you cutting-edge technologies that are there. One of the questions that just comes up is that how is this different from JLR acquisition? I think there the portfolios are substantially different. Here, actually, the portfolios sit next to each other. So the ability to actually synergize our thinking and approach the winning markets together is substantially more. And therefore, we'll need to leverage that to the hilt. And at the same time, Tata Motors has never been more stronger in terms of its financial position to take on such a transaction. And these transactions, the next question is why now? I think, one, we are financially in a very good place compared to where we were earlier. And also, transactions of this nature are far and few between. And you, as and when they are available, you will need to move fast. And with Iveco deciding to spin off its defense business, this then becomes a very attractive opportunity for us to scale up our business and think global, leverage each other's strengths, and use this to diversify our portfolio. We have been always saying that everything is good in the commercial vehicle business in terms of market share, profitability, cash flows. The only fly in the ointment is about cyclicality of the cash flows that you get. By diversifying such a meaningful acquisition at scale global, you also find a way to ensure that the consolidated entities' cash flows are less volatile, which helps you get a better value as far as the market is concerned. So it's great for the country in terms of getting cutting-edge products in terms of safety, autonomous, connected, new energy vehicles. It is great for Tata Motors shareholders because it's able to give them a very strong return profile. And thirdly, it is also great from an Iveco standpoint because it's giving them scale to a business. If you look at their EBITDA line, they're actually very competitive. But EBITDA to EBIT, it falls quite sharply because for the kind of investments they know, they can now amortize that cost over a larger volume base. So that also helps us.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Well, CNBC-TV18 quizzed the HUL management at the earnings press conference earlier today about the macro environment in India. Here's what they had to say. Listen in.
The macro atmosphere for consumption is looking more positive. The amount of liquidity increase in the country, number one. The lower inflation, which has been really hurting for the last few years, that is now much better, including food inflation. We have seen positive news in terms of taxation relief in the country. And if I add all those things put together and then take the factor of monsoon, which has been pretty good last year, and also encouraging monsoon in the current year, if I add all those factors put together, overall macro atmosphere looks encouraging. Equally, as I mentioned, internally in the company, we have strengthened our core portfolio and further improved our future core market maker. So overall consumption climate, the sequential improvement that we have seen, we expect it to be sustained, the gradual recovery that we've seen. And even for our business, very similar conversation. The growth has been for FMCG industry led by rural, where rural growth has been ahead of urban.
Now, we also asked Rohit Java, the outgoing managing director and CEO, about the leadership change at HUL. Here's what he had to say.
I've spent 37 years with Unilever, a large part of that with HUL and also with Unilever. So personally, I've come to a stage in my career, and you would agree that 37 years is a long time, that I want to now do something else in the second stage of my career and life. Priya is another homegrown talent like me. She has spent more than a quarter century in the company. She's been on the management committee for 7 years, on the Unilever executive for 4 years. She's headed big global businesses, B&W, or Beauty and Wellbeing. You know that 2 years ago I split the division and made B&W a specific division because that's really a driver of value growth. So she's also therefore absolutely well casted to drive that forward.
Well, on that note, let's slip into a very short break for now, but don't go anywhere. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Well, some updates from the Parliament then. The Lok Sabha has been adjourned till 2 p.m. while the Rajya Sabha was adjourned till noon following opposition ruckus over special voter list revision in Bihar and several other issues. Well, on that note, that's all we have on this edition of Business Lunch. We're leaving you with the Nifty slightly below the 24,900 mark. Don't go anywhere. Midcap Radar comes up next.